you threatening to go to war with Chicago?
When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would the Department of Defense?
Listen, we're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
So by now you have surely seen President Trump laying into this reporter/activist, calling her fake news. You'll notice that NBC cut out the part where he even told her to be quiet.
When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would the Department of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war.
So after watching this great interaction yesterday, I thought it would be fun to go back and look at some past interactions President Trump has had with this activist, reporter.
President Yamiche Alcindor with PBS NewsHour. On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying
I don't know why you'd
that
say
the
that. That's such a racist
There
question.
are some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists
I
because
don't
of your
believe
rhetoric.
that. I don't
What do
believe
you make
that.
of that?
I don't believe it. I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question. Honestly, I mean, I know you have it written down and you're going to tell me. Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President,
I love it. You know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems.
And
Excuse me, but to say that, what you said, is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
And if there are any doubts about the fact that she is an activist, an anti-Trump activist, check out this clip from MSNBC.
Lie, and that in fact what we're seeing is a celebration of America's independence on land that was stolen from Native Americans, and it's being seen and overlooked by 2 presidents, their figures rather, that owned slaves, and a 3rd president in Roosevelt who talked about going westward and who oversaw the desecration of Native lands. That's why you saw so many people in this country, especially people of color, look really, really disturbed when the president and then candidate Trump started saying, "Make America Great Again." He's really fitting in this history that is in some ways Republican history about the idea that they're really looking at white resentment and giving people who are worried about the future of America, but who are also angry at the idea of America browning, and giving them a place to say, you know what, you are the victim. This country owes you more, instead of looking toward the future and saying, actually, let's have an America where we're not believing in this myth. Let's have an America where people do understand the history of America. President Trump is saying, I want to be on the side of the myth of America.
And for fun, let's take a look at this reporter back on November 2024, election night, when the reality was kicking in that Kamala Harris was about to lose.
I want to bring in NBC News correspondent Yamiche Alcindor, who's standing by at our NBC headquarters in D.C., and she was at Howard University earlier tonight. I think people saw her on television, where the Harris campaign had gathered. We all watched and saw campaign co-chair Cedric Richmond speak, and he said earlier that we would hear from the vice president later today, and I'm saying later today because it's Wednesday.
And I want to just walk people through what the Harris campaign and really the people that are close to her have been like in the last few hours. They really did start off the night thinking 8 p.m., 9 p.m., sounding very optimistic, very confident. The vice president had been saying that she had the momentum. She was telling supporters in rally after rally that she believed she was going to win. And I was picking up on that cautious optimism. But right around 10 o'clock, 10:30, when it was clear that former President Trump was overperforming in places that were critical for him to win, including specifically in North Carolina and Georgia, I started to really sense a real shock and a real anxiety and a real worry from the Harris campaign. A real shock and a real anxiety and a real worry from the Harris campaign and Harris aides. And that really just got darker and darker, in terms of sort of their mood. At Howard University, people started to really have blank stares. They started to not be celebrating and dancing as they had been at the beginning of the night. And then later on, as it became clear that Donald Trump was going to be even closer to 270, especially after he won Pennsylvania, I started getting text messages from Harris aides who started pivoting, not from talking about whether or not she could still pull this off, but talking about how they would deal with a second Trump presidency. One aide telling me that he believes that he's going to try everything to try to push back on these policies.
It's not going to happen.
But also try to figure out a way to love the people that he disagrees with. So it's really interesting. Of course, the vice president, he hasn't conceded. NBC hasn't called this race yet. But we are in this situation now where Harris aides and people close to her are definitely making the move toward how are we going to work with the Trump administration? How are we going to deal with these policies? So I think it's just really interesting in these wee hours in this morning that is, of course, a Wednesday morning. There are a lot of Democrats that are waking up shocked, or that are going to bed shocked, but are also sort of dealing with the reality, which is that they expect Donald Trump to be the president of the United States and come next year.
I've been thinking a lot about all those campaign aides who've been through a lot this year, a change at the top of the ticket, a tumultuous campaign. It sounds like what you're saying, Yamiche, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that because it was Vice President Harris, and again, we haven't called the race, but right now, unless she wins the presidency, she's not going to be in elected office anymore in a couple of months. But her aides are talking about how she will work with the White House or how they will work. Tell me more about what you mean by that.
Yeah, so in talking to aides, they're talking about how they're going to deal with these policies. So these aides are organizers, they're grassroots organizers, some of them are people who work with big donors who put their money in the things that they think are important, whether that's climate change, whether that's reproductive rights, whether that's immigration. So what I'm hearing it's not that the vice president would be working with President Trump if he were to be reelected, but that all the apparatus, all of her aides are going to be in all these different sectors of society, that they're trying to think through how they deal with a second Trump presidency. So if he has a mass deportation policy, what does that look like? How do they push back on that? If he pulls back on climate change initiatives in this country, what are they going to be doing to try to figure out how to do that? In some ways, it mirrors what happened in 2016. There were a lot of Democratic organizers who started putting their heads together to figure out how to push back, even when they weren't in office, of course, as an elected officials, but they were trying to figure out where to put their resources and their time. And I think the thing that I'm sensing now, because a lot of Democrats have a sort of PTSD from 2016, one aide in particular was telling me, I need to figure out how to love people that I disagree with. So there's also not just the sort of work that needs to be done on the grassroots, but also how do Americans, when they're waking up and half the country is feeling like democracy's in danger and all of the different things that the vice president was saying about former President Donald Trump, how do they wrap their minds around the fact that this is a country that they love and that they have fellow Americans that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of that is just how do I deal with this country overall?
Yeah, Yamiche, thank you for that clarification. It's 4:20 in the morning, so I wanted to make sure I understood it the right way. But that is all of these organizers and people who've worked for her campaign. A lot of them, to your point, have come from climate groups and equal justice groups and civil rights groups and abortion rights groups. And these are people who are advocates for democracy in many ways in their souls, so they don't go away. In many ways, it's encouraging to hear that they are thinking about where they will be. Thank you, Yamiche, so much. I know you've been up for 1,000 hours.
A real shock and a real anxiety and a real worry from the Harris campaign.